In this module, I want to show you how to access imagery from the past, particularly historical aerial and satellite imagery. This is to enable you to import these image files on top of the areas that you're investigating to see the existence historically of native forest within the plantation areas. As you can see, I've started by accessing New South Wales Spatial Services, and that URL is www.spatial.nsw.gov.au/products and services/aerial and historical imagery. I also have it set up as a permanent bookmark called historical imagery. First of all, go to free viewing and download of aerial imagery. Then click on historical imagery viewer and I suggest that you add a bookmark so that you have it permanently for easy access, as it's not entirely straightforward as to how you get to this particular site. I'm going to go to one area that we've looked at before, which is Arara East State Forest. So as you can see, this is essentially a map of New South Wales, and the areas in yellow that you can see here represent the transects of historical aerial photographs. The yellow lines indicate the coverage of the particular image in question, superimposed over all the others and on top of a basic map of New South Wales. So I'm just going to type in Arara East State Forest. Let's see if that comes up. No. So let's try Arara East. And here we have Arara Way, Karamba, New South Wales. Let's try that. Now we already know from using Google Earth Pro where Arara is. We'll type it up in here. And here's Arara East. And we know that the plantation we're looking for is this particular area here. So we're looking for a transect of historical photography that contains this particular area around Emerald Beach and Mooney Beach. And because we want to get the closest record possible to what we call ground zero within this plantation area, we click on the polygons themselves to find the date according to the metadata when the plantation was established. In this case, it's 1980. 1982 here. And 1980 here. And 1982 here. So somewhere between for argument's sake, after 1982 would probably be preferable, as we'll be able to get the area as it was relatively recently converted to a plantation. Let's go back to the historical spatial viewer. Well, here's Coffs Harbour, here's Emerald Beach. So let's have a look around here. Here's Mooney, and look, here's that familiar shape from Google Earth Pro down here. Now, down at the bottom you can see there is a slider for showing viewing years. We want somewhere roughly around, for argument's sake, between 1983 and maybe 1985. So I've gone to 1986 up here, 1970. Can we take it any closer? Probably not. Let's leave it at that. So now, as I was saying, you can see the yellow lines which represent the coverage of the individual photographs, and we're looking for this area in here. Now you can see I've clicked on the image. We're being told that there are this is one of 20 photographs of the area. Here is a small thumbnail. This one dates to 1979. So this is just before plantation establishment. Here you can see essentially a JPEG file, and that file can be dragged and dropped or saved into the relevant folder. You can also click on it to get a little closer in. And here, when we look at the particular area in question, which is around here, you can see there has already been some clearing within that locality. But we'd like to get a little closer to the post-establishment imagery. 1974. 1974, we'll keep going. 1979, 1984, and it has the coverage that we're looking for. So let's have a look at that. And when we click on the image and it gets bigger, here we can see the area in Arara East that we will be investigating for what native forest is left inside that plantation area. And this is a good enough image for us to use. So now we want to save it to our data system that we've used for all our files for Google Earth Pro. Some of you may have created your own folder on your desktop called Citizen Science or similar. I keep all my folders for my citizen science work simply on my desktop, but you don't have to copy me, and you may well want to create your own specific citizen science folder. But now I'm going to drag that into a pre-prepared folder that I've made on my desktop. I'm taking it to the Finder, and here it is. And here is Arara. And if at all possible, I want to be able to drop it directly in there. Now it's gone blue, I'm actually inside that location, and I'm going to drag and drop. And there it is. And because we want to know this for our records, I'm going to slightly rename this image, and I'm going to put 1984 in the front of it so that I will know what year this image is. All right, well, there it is. We'll now move on to a basic drag and drop operation of importing that image as a rubber sheet. In other words, just simply dropped on top and roughly squished and squashed to fit within the area in question. So here it is. We'll get rid of this. I always like to tilt and compass, as you know. And now I'm going to add image overlay. But before I do, I'm going to go to my folder called Arara East, because that's ultimately where I want to save it. And for the sake of this exercise, I will add folder. I'll call it image. There it is. I'll take it up to the top here. And now I have it selected. I'm going to import the image onto Google Earth Pro, and it will hopefully be saved within that folder. Add image overlay. Now the image itself is likely to be quite a lot bigger than the area I've selected. So I'll zoom out a little bit. I'll go Browse. I'll go to where I have it saved, which, if you remember, was in a folder on my desktop that I'd called Arara. There it is, and there's the image. I now select the image and open. It looks like it's potentially sized itself, but now we have to go through the exercise of making sure that the imagery that we've got roughly corresponds to the area in question. And I can already see that down here, and I can see the plantation boundary outline here, and it's a little bigger. So I'm on a Mac. I place my finger on the Shift key, and then I drag the image over here, somewhere over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to keep my finger on the Shift key, and I'm going to make the image slightly bigger. And roughly speaking, I've placed that image pretty much in context. It's not perfect, but there it is. And now, as this is just a rough outline and exercise, I'm going to save it in that location, and you'll see here that that's linked to my desktop folder, and now this image needs to live in that desktop folder, because if I move it or do anything with it, Google Earth won't be able to relocate it. So that's where it's going to live. I'm going to copy the name of the file. I'm going to paste it in here, in here, and I'm going to go OK. And now we have the image dropped on to Google Earth Pro as a rough guideline for working on this image in the future. And that is basically how you import an image from the historical imagery viewer. And the system is pretty much the same for other states as well. Happy hunting!